Hello, everyone. Hatana MMA back with another DWCS breakdown. Going to be kicking off the Week 9 action with the main event of Week 9 in Artem Vakhitov versus Islem Masraf. Going to be kicking it off with the former Glory light heavyweight kickboxing champion, Artem Vakhitov. So Vakhitov is Russian. He is 6'1". He has a 2-1 professional record, and he's 33 years old. So definitely a bit on the older side for a prospect, I guess you could say. He has fought Alex Pereira twice. They have a 1-1 record against each other. This will be his first fight at heavyweight, as his other three came at light heavyweight. Vakhitov has a very sharp jab, and he's great at backing up opponents with it and just cornering them against the cage, against the ropes, I guess you could say, because I did have to watch some of his kickboxing fights for this due to his lack of MMA experience. So he's very good at cornering his opponents with his jab and then being able to unleash his other strikes, his other shots. His devastating leg kicks, especially, are a big tool he likes to use. He just absolutely killed one of his opponents in 20 seconds with two leg kicks. It was really funny, actually. His opponent thought he could call a timeout, but you can't call a timeout because your leg is hurt from two leg kicks. He also can set up his fast lead high kick. He has a great lead high kick and some amazing spinning kicks to the body that really push opponents back and help him get to cornering them against the cage as well. He has a massive overhand right that he just throws out of nowhere. There's no setup for it at all. It lands flush, fast. He doesn't have the most power. He's not like Pereira where he has the most power. Vahitov also works the body really well. He has some incredible striking defense, good head movement with some really solid counters. His counters are one of the best parts of his game, I'd probably say, considering that he's very patient and just has such a high fight IQ that he normally is just sitting back, low volume, patient, and waits to make a read, and then makes that read and counters and is just dominating the fight throughout. Vahitov also has some incredible timing and just some ridiculously fast reaction time. He also just has an amazing chin, so he can eat some really powerful shots. I mean, he ate all of the punches that Alex Pereira threw at him throughout their two fights, 10 rounds together in kickboxing. He ate everything and just kept moving forward. Vahitov is a bit susceptible to the body, though, and he will let his opponent tee off a little bit while he's making his read and kind of just, shell up and play the defense game while not really doing much on offense. Obviously, he's not a wrestler, but on the ground, Vahitov can defend bad takedown attempts, and luckily Masraf isn't a wrestler, so that'll be good for him. He doesn't have the best grappling in general, though, obviously. He does work to his feet well, but just in scrambles and transition, he's just obviously not great. If he gets on top, he will volume ground and pound and potentially force a stoppage with that, but just not, he doesn't want to be on the ground. That's not where the fight's going to be unless he's fighting a guy that wants to take him there, which I don't think Mazraf will. And Vahitov's only loss was a very unfortunate loss. His opponent kind of like pulled him into his guard, and Vahitov hit his arm on the floor and had an elbow injury, and the fight was stopped a minute in. He looked pretty solid before that, but there wasn't enough information to tell what would have happened in that fight. And Vahitov only has about 3 minutes of real MMA tape out there, so there's just not a lot of footage on him, but same goes for his opponent, to be fair. Vahitov's cardio is also awesome. He just gets better as the fight goes on. He really doesn't show much fatigue at all. One of my biggest concerns with Vahitov is he's had a lot of hand injuries in the past, and now fighting without the gloves, I can only imagine that he will be hurting his hands at least once in MMA. So moving on to Islam Masraf. Masraf is from France. He has a 3-0 professional record and stands at 6 feet tall. He fought in the PFL and in Aries, so he does have experience in good promotions for sure, big promotions over there. He weighed 260 pounds for his last fight, but then apparently fought at 205 just a month prior. So I'm very confused about it. He looked like a big dude in his last fight, but I'm really not sure exactly what is up with his weight and if that's accurate at all. He's a southpaw. He comes out in that southpaw stance and is just, a bit awkward at first, hard to read at times. And that's especially because Mazraf is a bit wild. He just very loose in there and he just kind of launches shots from like all angles. He has a really big left hand and a really nice jab and some really solid power hooks with both hands. Just a lot of power coming from all angles on Mazraf. He doesn't throw a lot of uppercuts. It's mostly hooks, overhands, jab, straight. He really does know how to throw them on different angles and kind of mix those up. And when Masraf throws in combination, if he starts to unleash like a combination of hooks or like whatever he wants to throw, if he throws it in combination, he does have some very quick combinations and some very fast hands. He always wants to be on the front foot as well. He wants to be pressuring, he wants to be in control of the pace, which both of these guys usually do. So it's going to be interesting to see who gives up the room in this fight. Masraf also has some really nice kicks himself. He has some big head kicks and some very hard leg kicks. And Masraf does a great job at leaning away from punches backwards. I mean, he does obviously move on the straight line backwards, which may not be great, but he does do a good job of leaning back and getting out of the way of strikes. He just kind of throws with everything he has. Just when he's punching, he is throwing with all of his strength in every punch early, and that could cause him to, potentially fatigue a bit later in fights. In the grappling, Masraf has some really solid takedown defense, but there are times that he's been held and taken down before, and he can be clinched up on the feet, and he's just not a great grappler offensively, but he's just not that bad defensively. If he gets on top, he has some solid ground and pound. He has pretty good get-ups, some pretty solid strikes in the clinch, and just a decent, I guess, overall clinch game. He just doesn't really offer much on the ground, which neither of these guys do, so I doubt we see many grappling exchanges in this fight. One thing I will say is Masraf has a pretty tight guillotine. He doesn't set it up too well, but when it's in, it's definitely in for sure. He like locks it up very tight, and that could be something we see in this fight. If we see a situation in the clinch, he could try to lock up that guillotine. So for my prediction for this fight, it's not going to be too tough of one, in my opinion, because as good as Masraf is, he had the viral 10-second KO in his last fight, but that was mostly because of his opponent fighting like an idiot. Vakhitov has the hype. He has, the name behind him. And when you watch them fight, Vakhitov is the better striker, in my opinion. My only worry is that he's just not as used to MMA. And if Masraf has been training his grappling here, he could very well take him down. He's also going to be the bigger guy, presumably, in this fight because this will be Vakhitov's first fight outside of light heavyweight. Meanwhile, Masraf weighed 260, I think it said, for his PFL fight at heavyweight, which was nuts. So he should be a lot bigger and he'll be more used to MMA, more used to grappling. I just think that he needs to use those advantages he has and not try to strike a guy like Artem Vakhitov. The thing is, it's DWCS, and if you watch him fight, he really has no intention of grappling. I don't see him trying to grapple in this fight. And I think that Artem Vakhitov will take full advantage of the fact that Masraf won't want to grapple. I think he'll be able to strike at range well. I think he'll be the one pressuring. And I think his kicks, his punches are slowly going to wear on Masraf to where he probably gets a finish in round two. So my prediction will be Artem Vakhitov, round two knockout in this fight. I could see it with a massive overhand right. I could see him doing it with a couple kicks. I could see a couple different ways that Vakhitov could knock him out on the feet. But Masraf is very live to land something big and knock him out. Like I said, he'll be bigger. He'll be more used to MMA. This isn't just a wash for by any means, but give me Artem Vakhitov. I wanted to thank everyone for tuning in to my latest episode of my DWCS breakdowns. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed, and please make sure to tune in for the rest of the episodes I'll have coming out in the coming days for this week 9 action on Dana White's Contender Series. It's, in my opinion, the best card of this season, so I can't wait to break it down fight by fight for you guys. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.